Good afternoon. My name is Dale Rodriguez, and this is Flabonga Month the Cube. And with me today, I have Phil Hobden. Hey, Phil, how's it going?
Hey Dale, good to be back. I can't believe the last time was 2022.
Yeah, I thought it was more recent than that, but no, it was December
Yeah,
2022. I looked it up on my previous calendar. I was like, oh, it's actually been a long, long time. Um,
yeah, that's mad. I mean, it just shows like how fast time is moving, right? Yeah, 2022 feels like a lifetime ago. And a couple of t-shirts ago in my case.
yes. What is it with the whole t-shirts thing? Is it just that you enjoy collecting them? Why have you become known for these t-shirts? Is it like what's that about?
It's so I've moved roles a couple of times, right? So I've moved from I was originally I started in the industry with Futurely. I moved to Capitalize, towards Secure, and then I've done a couple of 6 month. I did a 6 month gig at Nomad as well. So it's just a joke that I've done a couple of companies. Every company you go to, you get a new T-shirt. Every T-shirt, every so it's just an affectionate joke. Which I take, right, like if you go to a couple of companies, as a breed, accountants in general are very loyal to businesses. They stay there for many, many years, so having someone that goes to different roles or take 6 month contracts because they want to add value to a business and then go on and learn some new skills. Sometimes that can be a bit strange, but I kind of enjoy getting all that different knowledge.
It's interesting you say that because I just know, like from experience, sales is a common thing to work shorter contracts, shorter periods of time. You get in, get the job done, um, and yeah, it's not unusual to see salespeople move around. But like you say, in accountancy and bookkeeping, there's usually like kind of staff loyalty or retention. There's a different length of service, so it does look peculiar. But no, I completely understand it. Do you know what I realize I've done? I have not allowed you to introduce yourself properly. I've assumed people know who you are, but there are people outside of the accounting industry who watch this sometimes, and they might be like, "Who the hell is this guy?" So, Phil, could you just give a quick introduction about yourself, who you are, what you do, why you do it?
Yeah, of course. That's always a problem when you've known someone for so long, right? That yeah. So look, my name's Phil Hobden. I am the product lead for the UK at Silverfin. I've been with Silverfin for just over a couple of months now. Um, Previous to that, I've worked for a few tech vendors in this space, like I said, Secure, Futurely, Capitalize, and essentially, I am a lover of the accounting tech space. I fell into this industry from coming from banking and finance, and before that, owning my own business. But I fell into this industry. By the way, great story. I went for an interview with a company in Brighton, Futurely, and Helen said to me, she said, "You'll never have to wear a suit again, and we'll give you a MacBook to work on." And I was like, "I'm in. I don't need to know anything else about the job." That was where do I sign? And I've never worn a suit again, and mostly I've only ever worked on Mac. So yeah, it fed into my kind of what I like. But I love working with accountants and accounting industry and helping work with great products in bring those great products into their business and really understand how they can make the most of them. So that's kind of what I do.
Cool. Going back through your career history, I got some beef with you, man. Got some beef.
Oh no. Oh no, what
I'm
have I
gonna
done?
hold you personally responsible, even though you probably had nothing to do with it.
I'll take
NatWest,
it. I'll take
all right? NatWest
it. I'm open
and
to
Nat
this beef, by the way. That's fine.
and NatWest Bankline. Have a word. Call your peeps. Sort it out. Like, I know you haven't been there for a while. It's
Yeah,
been a minute, but like just like call somebody you know. Be like, hey, director of NatWest, fix it.
it's it's interesting. When I was with the bank, we were working on the Williams and Glynn project, right? Because obviously when there was the recession and Fred the Shred and all of that happened all those many years ago, and RBS were forced to hive off part of their business. That was going to be the Williams and Glynn project, and that's what I went in to work on. And part of what I did there is I went up to train the call center staff within the business teams up in Manchester, as it was. And yeah, they were brilliant, really good teams, really kind of helpful. But one of the things that I learned when I was up there is how few people were looking after. Like there was pods of groups who would look after cohorts of business accounts, right? And if you imagine across the network of branches, they must open hundreds of business accounts a day. Well, there was like a pod of maybe 10 pods of maybe 10 people a pod that were looking after the entire business account for the whole of the UK.
Oh wow.
And Yeah. And of course, as banks decentralized or centralized, I should say, and moved away from high streets and closed down business teams and local business teams, more and more of that moved up to the central teams. And you really saw that pressure on those teams, that there's a lot of people asking for help from very few people. And that's part of that reason, right? Like but as I always said at the time, and it's still true now, for those SMBs, those small businesses, the banks don't make any money from them at all, right? They cost money. They cost the banks money. So they predominantly have them because some of them will grow to larger businesses and be successful. Some of them will bring personal wealth in. And also because there's a government mandate that says you have to provide banking facilities for small businesses.
Yep.
But I'm pretty sure a lot of businesses, it's certainly the old school banks, probably not the neo banks like Starling and people like that, right? But a lot of the old school banks would probably quite happily not have that lower tranche of businesses, because the cost to serve is ginormous and the benefit is pretty small. It's like VC. We were talking about money and investing in tech right before we went on air, and similar to that, a VC will invest in 10 businesses knowing one will be a unicorn, a couple they'll get out just about, and the rest they'll probably lose money on.
Yeah, fair play. I'm gonna have to insert a silly question because Phil, what's the difference between a piano and a fish?
What's the difference between a piano and a fish?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not very good at playing either.
First of all, how does one play a fish, even if you can play?
I don't know. Probably not one very good at it.
And the punchline is, you can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish.
Ah, I like it. I like it. Okay.
I know it was atrocious. It was atrocious. Speaking of fish puns and such, again, I'm gonna let you sell this. Let's zoom in for this bad boy. Let's Phil, what's Silverfin? What is it? Why should I care?
It's a very, very good question. That's my Alexa.
Someone's at the front door. That was a very nice. That was beautiful.
It's good, isn't it? It's good, isn't it?
It's nice. It's calm.
My connected household that everyone.
But did it do the ding dong first?
Yeah. I can hear the ding dong downstairs.
Just in case you don't know what the ding dong means.
Yeah, and then it goes, and then I even get a notification on my phone to tell me that there's someone. So if I didn't get the ding dong, the Alexa notification, or the something on my phone, God knows how I know that there's someone at the door. So what is Silverfin? So Silverfin is accounts production, working papers, corporation tax, and financial reporting in the cloud for accountants. So I know, right? And we deal with a large amount of the top 100, top 250 firms in the UK. We are a Belgian company originally. And in Belgium, we are what I would suggest the core player out in that market. But in the UK, we've been here
Belgium, I just think tasty beer. I'm not going to lie.
I know, right? Like I don't drink anymore. So like I was the guy that went over to Belgium and was looking for non-alcoholic beer in Belgium. I mean, imagine how popular I was. At the same point, asking for vegan food. I mean, like.
Wait, you're vegan as well? Since when?
Yeah, so January 2 years ago.
Okay. So, I mean, that would be after we spoke, wouldn't it? So there we go.
Yes, no, literally was. You turned me vegan and off alcohol. That was it. It was that call that did it. You
know what? That makes me proud. I think that I have so much influence over another human being. That's phenomenal.
No. We're going back to Silverfin.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. So if you look at a lot of the players in this marketplace that do accounts production, corporation tax, it will be hybrid or on-premise. Silverfin is a native cloud solution. It's really slick as well. And I say that slightly biased, clearly, but it is slick. And if you look at our NPS score, is really high, both in the UK and globally. Our kind of product NPS score, and that comes from having a product that people like to use and they know that saves them time. So Silverfin will save you time on doing that workflow that you do, and you guys use it, right? You guys are adopting it within what you do. Getting there. I mean, you're early on the journey, but you're starting to starting to get involved. So in
I
6
believe
months' time, you'll be
I
able to
believe
tell
we're doing
me.
a pilot. I think that's what we're doing at the moment.
Yeah, exactly that, right? So you're starting to kind of see what we do and how we do it. But I really, do you know what? I've worked for a lot of different tech businesses in this industry. I truly believe that and this isn't a pitch, right? I'm not going to do anything more than this. I'll draw it dead here. I truly
Mate,
believe that Silverfin has.
I asked you to do it. Pitch away.
I truly believe Silverfin has one of the best products that I've ever worked for, and I've worked for some really great tech and products in my time. So, very, very happy to be working here and doing a new role within the product team as well is an interesting thing for me.
I'm tempted to give you a challenge, but I don't know if it's a fair challenge or not. Do you think you could pitch Silverfin to a non-accounting practice? Could you pitch it or extol the values of it to a business owner, or is it just too far removed from the business owner?
I think it's too far removed. I think it is a product that is designed for it's designed by accountants for accountants, and I think that's a lane that we're quite happy to be in. You get a lot of like Xero's the archetype business that is a accounting product that can be used. Yeah, it's an accounting product that can be used by SMBs. Should it be used by SMBs without an accountant? I think that's a whole different conversation. I think there's some danger in that. Yeah, absolutely. So I it's like Sage, right? When I owned my business, I got a copy of this. This is going to date how old my business was.
Yeah.
A copy of Sage Line 50 on CD. And I used that, and I tried to do my account on Sage Line 50, and I realized I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I moved to Excel, and then realized I didn't know what I was doing. Then tried to do all my compliance stuff myself, and realized I didn't know what I was doing. Made a complete hash of it. Went to a local accountant, and they charged me an absolute fortune to put right what I put wrong. Yeah, and rightly so. And I didn't moan at that accountant for charging me a load, because I knew that without him, I would have been in trouble. And at that point, from that point onwards, I would never ever try to be smart again, because I realised I wasn't. So,
speaking of CDs, do you know they might be coming back?
No, vinyl's fine. I'm happy with vinyl.
CDs might come back.
Cassettes, bring cassettes back.
They've realised that when it comes to physical devices like SSDs, you can't really make I won't bore you with the details, but the flash technology smaller without corrupting the data, and they've realized that they can make CDs thicker or more dense in terms of data storage. So CDs might be coming back as a physical storage device.
And that's fascinating. So you can't get flash memory any smaller or faster. So therefore, you've got to go back to an old school method of storage.
Yeah, like when they make SSD drives, there's like a layer of like microns and stuff like that, and they've smushed them, and to make them cheaper and quicker, you put more and more layers together, but then they start messing each other up because of electromagnetism, and they've kind of maxed that at the moment, and they're like, okay, well, how do we get more density? And someone's like, well, we can make the density of CDs thicker. We didn't think of it before, but we can. So because you know how they used to, the CDs would spin and the laser would read the disc, and they do that on one plane. They're like, why don't we do that on a 3D plane? Why don't we get the laser to read data on a 3D plane? Magic.
That's fascinating. And plays to my love of retro technology, albeit CDs was never really my favorite. I was never a great fan of CD. I thought the quality was never. There was always a detachment on CD, I found.
A detachment compared to vinyl?
Yeah. I think with vinyl, vinyl feels more. I don't know. Vinyl feels more like a living thing, right? It ages, it scratches, but it still can work. It just, I don't know. There's something about vinyl that feels quite pure. There's something about CD that never really, it was convenient, right? You couldn't take I used to have a portable CD player when I traveled, again, aging myself. You couldn't take a portable vinyl player, clearly. But cassette players were still the best in terms of portable stuff.
You are correct, though. So from a technical point of view, vinyl is a lossless method of sound, whereas CDs are compressed. So there's actually loss of waveform in them. But that's me being geeky. So
no, I think that's what I was trying to say, but you said it far better than me.
Yeah, no. So you're right. Vinyl is a raw audio format. You get the sound as it should be, and it's usually warmer and deeper in sound than a CD.
Yeah, and it's over time, no matter how much you look after vinyl, it's still warps a little bit or bends a little bit, or so the sound changes slightly. So it's almost a vinyl record over years that you've loved and looked after will still evolve, and the sound on it will evolve. It's quite a romantic. I think it's quite a romantic format. I've got some records that are quite old, and I love listening to them because they're imperfect.
My first album was Michael Jackson, Off the Wall, on vinyl. Aging myself.
Oh, that's a good. Do you want to know my first album?
I do.
Sam Fox.
Do you know what? This is one thing that's kind of aged me a little bit. When I was a kid, again, vinyl was still around. I said my first album. Do you remember when cereals used to give away stuff in the cereal box, right?
Yeah.
That? Like, so my parents never used to buy Frosties. They were like, well, they didn't really like cereals at all. We usually had like porridge or cooked breakfast. Anyway, when I was younger, Survivor, that's Eye of the Tiger, was still a big song because of Rocky. Frosty did a promotion, and because my dad loves music so much but hates Frosty so little or so much, he's like they did a promotion where you could get a tiny mini vinyl. It was on the inside of the Frosties packet, and you could cut it out, and the back was still the cardboard, and the top was vinyl, and it had Eye of the Tiger on it. So cool.
I'm going to see if I can get it on eBay. I bet someone can. I bet you can. I bet you can still get it on eBay.
Or a Frosties packet vinyl.
That's so cool. The Sam Fox album was called Touch Me. There you go. That was my first ever album. I had it on tape. My music taste has evolved since then. Yeah,
I'm sure it has. Oh, let's go with your music taste now. So, if you can recall, what are the last kind of 3 or 4 tracks you listened to recently on Spotify or YouTube, or wherever you stream?
So that's slightly skewed because I've got a running soundtrack that is a mixture. But the last album I listened to, end to end, quite niche. But I listened to an album for a TV show called The Vietnam War by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, who are 2 of my favourite film composers.
Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails, right?
Yeah. He did the soundtrack to Social Network, which is just phenomenal. And also, if you've seen the film Challengers that was out recently, they did the soundtrack to that as well. Mm-hmm. I was on holiday and I was reading, and I quite like something that's like gentle and non-wordy in the background, so it's not too distracting. So I listened to that album. Probably the last song I actually listened to was Bad Obsession by Guns N' Roses. I think that was the last song that came up when I was running a couple of days ago.
Cool.
But yeah. I don't see, like, quirky. Last album I bought was actually The Social Network on vinyl.
Cool. I mean, I haven't bought an album in yonks. I've downloaded some albums, but not. What's the last time I bought an album? So I've been listening to an artist called Intervals. Just amazing.
Okay.
Guitarist, like very technical, gent, not too shreddy but shreddy, ambient, just phenomenal guitar playing. Just like it's fast, but it's not just like fast for fast sake. There's like you can actually hear what the dude's playing. It's quite staccato. Like
nice.
Got some good vibes. I recommend it.
Okay.
I should ask you some business questions.
I've got into recently. Sorry, just got into recently Ezra Collective as well. I thought that was their album was phenomenal.
So I'm making notes. Ezra Collective.
I think that's what it's called. I might have just got that completely wrong. That was they won. I think they might have won the Mercury Award last year.
Can I ask you a question that I hate to be asked?
Yes, of course.
It's unreasonable. I don't like it. What do you think the future of fintech is?
Are we talking specifically accounting technology, or are we talking specifically fintech in general?
Accounting technology.
Okay. I think the future will be less app. I think the future will be more consolidation. And I think there's going to be a gap between the tiny kind of bootstrap, scrappy apps that will always exist and the larger technology. I think that bit that's in the middle, I think that will start to disappear a little bit, where businesses that aren't profitable and haven't found the right market fit will disappear. And we've seen that over the last few years with businesses like, I think Coconut springs to mind, right? Great products, had a challenge around MTD, then had to evolve again. So I think that will probably, I think you'll see a lot more of that. And then conversely, I think you'll see a lot of the bigger businesses buying up HG, Sage, buying up apps that they can slot into their tech stack. I think that's, but do you know what though, Dale? Interestingly, I think that's the same as accountancy firms, right? I think accountancy firms, you're seeing a lot of businesses being bought, a lot of M&A, so a lot of mid-sized firms and smaller firms being bought up, and that scales it up. And what you get with that is you get, by the way, that middle's never going to disappear. But what you get as you scale that up is you get all the people that work for those firms that now go, actually, do I still want to work for a big firm? They go, actually, no, I might go out and set up on my own because actually the technology's there. I can go out and set up my own firm. And they start to grow their own firms. And then eventually that firm will probably be acquired as well. So I think it's not too dissimilar that I think the top and the bottom will continue to feed itself almost, and the middle's where most of the feeding ground will be.
Okay, thank you for answering that question, because like I said, it's a question I don't like answering.
Oh, it's a horrible question.
It annoys
you just can't predict the future, right?
Well, because that's my logic. Sometimes I get really snippy with people like, I don't know the future. Like an asteroid could hit tomorrow. We're all dead. I don't know. I think
it's a pretty fair assumption, right? Though I think we're already seeing it in this space. We're seeing a lot of consolidation of technology, and we have done over the last few years. You know, from Sage buying GoProposal and Futurely and Auto Entry, Iris buying multiple different companies. You know, Visma bought us at Silverfin. You know, but then you're seeing a load of kind of smaller apps jump up, like Mayday comes to mind, right? Mayday's now growing a lot, but that was a scrappy startup app that's done really good. You've got Jonathan Gaunt's out there launching his new tech Socket. And you know, Jonathan's been around
he's a serial fintech entrepreneur. He's done
it.
Yeah.
So I think you'll see more and more of that, and I love that because you get those kind of. What tends to happen is, big company buys nice product, integrates it to different extents into their tech stack or product stack. Customers go, we're not getting the same love that we used to. Tech entrepreneur goes, hold on, I see a market fit. I could build that product, but potentially better with some functionality that it doesn't exist. Customers go off onto that app then grows.
Yeah. This is breeding innovation. I have to give a shout out to Marcus Batson. He's watching. He's commented #SilverPhil. I mean, we can't really call you a silver fox, can we?
No, I think it came from. I can't remember what it came from. But I love that #SilverPhil. Thank you, Marcus.
I like that you're both bald and bearded and beautiful.
I think there is a lot of synergy there, right? Like, and congratulations to Marcus, who started a new role this week as well.
He's moved. He's changed. What?
He has.
Is that public knowledge? Hold on, let me go.
Yes. It's on his LinkedIn, so it must be public.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah, okay. Hold on, let me just go. Not that I keep tabs on everybody and everything and everyone.
So Marcus has officially started with Zama
AML, anti-money laundering, right?
Yeah, head of customer success.
Okay. Congrats, Mr. Batson, on the role change. That's dope. That's cool. Sorry, Phil, it's all about you. We're not talking about Marcus. He's been on. We'll talk about him another time. What other questions do I want to ask you? Okay, I'm going to ask you a loaded negative question. What's your least favorite thing about this space? What's the thing that really just ticks you off?
My least favorite thing.
You just you fuming. You're just like, why?
It's a tangential one, right? Like I think there are challenges with people that come to events for the wrong reason, right? Like someone posted
or attendees or both.
Attendees.
Okay, yeah.
Someone coined the phrase, and I like this very much, by the way, swag pies.
Yeah, they're the worst. They're wasting everybody's. They're wasting their day. They're wasting your day. They're wasting if they're employed, they're wasting their employer's day. Like, why bother?
But it's not their fault. It's our fault as vendors because we've created this, right? Over the years, we've created the bigger stands, the swaggiest of swag. You know, come to our stand and get our new amazing piece of swag. So we've almost created this. And I go to quite a lot of events. I try to go to some different stuff as well that's tangential. And I've never come across one that's as generous as what we do, right, in the accountancy space. I've been to horse events for my wife and family, business events. You know, you'll get the occasional pen and maybe a notebook, but some of the stuff we give away in this industry is insane. And that has a cost. It has a cost as well in terms of huge environmental costs. Because, I opened up my water bottle and I posted about this not that long ago, right? Sorry, my cupboard. I posted about it not that long ago and I was like, we've got like 15 water bottles in the cupboard at home. And I'm like, I'm almost embarrassed by that. Now, some of them are cool and different. I've still got my Zerocon 2019 glass bottle with the.
I was going to say, Zero always do the sustainable ones. We've got to give them props for that.
Yeah. But, and I have a daughter, 14-year-old, and she uses them, and I use them for gym and stuff like that. They get used, but do I need 15 or could I do with 5? And the answer is I could probably make do with 5 and replace them as they break.
You make a good point. It is a problem that, and it's not just fintech. Like every time you're a vendor, you're expected to have some kind of giveaway or swag, aren't you? Because if you don't, people might not stop at your stand.
But equally, how this for a controversial point? Good. If you're only coming to my stand because you want the swag, like I think people need to. And I'm not moaning, because I love events, and I genuinely do, and I think the events industry is fantastic. I think all the players, like DAS was fantastic this year. Accountex, I think Fab had a good launch event or relaunch event this year. I went up there. Zerocon is next week. These events are great, and they all service a specific market. But I think if you're just going to an event to pick up swag, then you're not doing service or justice to the vendors you're going to see or your own time. Make a plan, and if you want to find out a little bit more about accounts production, working papers, or corporation tax software, come and talk to us. And if we have a good conversation, you want to have a chat to us afterwards, and you want a pair of socks, have a pair of socks, right? But I saw someone. Do you know what triggered this? I saw someone walking around Accountex with a trolley. Like a collapsible trolley. We're just putting swag into a collapsible trolley, which obviously wasn't collapsible. And I'm like, it's got to be a two-way street. Because the other point is, right, and going back to my point earlier about technology, if that's all that everyone does, that industry becomes super unsustainable super quick. And I'm not talking unsustainable in terms of environmental, I'm talking financially unstable, right? Like if I'm coming to a show and I'm spending, I know what some of the bigger vendors are spending on bits of the show. And I've heard stories about certain vendors spending $100,000 just for some promo outside of Accountex, right? Not even inside. If we're spending that kind of money, it's because we want to have good conversations or have good conversations with existing customers, future customers, previous customers, people that are genuinely looking at what we do. And that's great. And I will entertain those conversations all day long. But if you're just coming just to grab swag, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. I think you're doing us a disservice. And I think it doesn't make the industry reflect well either.
Can I play devil's advocate?
100%.
And at the same time, somewhat agree with you. I also think some of the problem is bad salespeople within this industry, specifically.
100%.
Like, there are people that have spoken to me, have not qualified me in any way, shape, or form, or trick me, or try to trick me into a demo. And that's a waste of everybody's time. If they just said, do you need this product? They'd be like, yes, or no. Or we've got 2 projects on right now. It's not going to be another 18 months because we're big firm. But no, they just like email me. I get emails from people with stuff that's not relevant to me at all. And I'm like, all you have to do is ask 1 to 2 questions and you'd find out I'm not the right person. In fact, I make it really easy for salespeople. I say, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is my influence over this. This is not my influence over this. And this is the person I report to. If you want this, that's the person you need to speak to. I'm a terrible gatekeeper.
No, but do you know what? I'm the same, right? I'm easy to sell to because I will tell you within 5 seconds if it's the right thing. I'm not going to lead you along. I get phone calls all the time, and I'm like, yeah, that's not in my wheelhouse. And they're like, can you tell me someone in your business that is? And I'm like, well,
that's your job.
Yeah, I mean, I can, but also I don't think the product's right for us. But I can't speak for other people because that's not fair to speak to other people. I think you're right. I think, look, I'm responsible for one of the worst sales practices in this industry ever, right? And I'll tell you the story.
Oh,
At ZeroCon, my first ever ZeroCon, I was working for Future, and we were standing next to, our stand was next to the Zero lunch queue, right?
mm-hmm.
So we were literally the queue here and our stand was here. Fantastic position. And me and my colleagues went down and we basically scanned every single person that was on that. And then we're talking 8-9 years ago, right? A long time ago. I'd never do this now. But we went down and we scanned every single badge pretty much. And I'm sure people thought we were scanning them for the food. And clearly, you know, we weren't. And we got a massive database of people. And yeah, we made sales from that. But people were reaching out to people and they didn't know who we were and didn't know why we were reaching out. And therefore, actually, you're probably 5 steps back from where you would have been if you just cold called them, because at least a cold call's more genuine. And by the way, I would never ever do that again, and I never did it stints.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, we had a target to scan as many leads as possible, so that's what we did.
So the target drove bad behavior, basically.
Exactly that. How we evolved that was really sensible. We looked at the data and went, this data isn't brilliant. Like, it's bottom of the funnel data, right? Or top of the funnel, whichever way around it goes, I never remember. But it's basically like the people that you're going to mail to a lot and eventually they'll unsubscribe. It wasn't great. The next event we did after that, we completely changed the way we did things and it was more successful. And we got more successful. You're right. There's a lot of bad sales practices like that in the industry. And it sometimes just takes a 5-second conversation just to go, what? Like Nelson, my old CEO at Capitalize, who worked at Receipt Bank previously, Dext, and now at 2020. He always said to me, and I think it's a great point, if someone comes to the stand and goes, what do you do? You should turn back around and go, no, what do you do? Right? Tell me about what you do, and I'll let you know how this product that we have fits in with you, if it fits in with you.
100%. No point in doing a 5-minute elevator pitch to someone who goes,
No.
"Oh yeah, I'm a cleaner." Like if you're a fintech
Yeah.
company, like, do you know what I mean? It's like, it's not. Yeah, I'm with you. I need to jump in the comments because Marcus has asked a really good question. Marcus Batson has asked, "Do you think it's easy for attendees to navigate the app marketplace? If not, how do we as vendors help them with finding the right tool / solution for them?" I have thoughts on this, but I don't know.
App marketplace in general are this leads into this goes back to my point of events, right? Like no one has done this in this industry, and this is an idea that I think is brilliant and I think someone should steal, right? And it kind of goes into a little bit to your point, Marcus. When I go to an event, there's 500 vendors, 300 vendors. I don't know what a iPlicit does because it invariably, I don't know what a Futurely does, right? Because invariably we come up with these names that don't mean a great deal or have a very specific niche name. Now, what if I went to that event and I said that my needs for that event were, I want to look at practice management software, I want to look at accounts production software, I want to look at working papers. And the organizers then give each of those people 5 firms in each of those categories to go and have a conversation with. And now you know that you are going to go and speak to those 5 firms because they are specifically in the niche of what you're looking for. Big top 250 firm looking for accounts production software, cloud, right? These are the 6 vendors that suit that because and you introduce it. So I think the same problem in the app marketplace exists at events, that people go in there and it's like, it's that great John Travolta Pulp Fiction meme, right? Where you walk into a room, where John Travolta walks into a room and he's like, you know, great meme. But I think that's the same for app stores. So I think there are better ways for discovery. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, though.
So I touched on this topic when I was at DAS. I spoke on this, right? And I think historically, and this is not all bookkeepers and accountants and firms and practices, there's been like a rush, like the 90s.com rush of just buying up things, maybe not thinking things through. And my formula is need times evaluation. Need on a scale of 1 to 5, how much do you need the feature within this product? 5 being a must-have, 1 a nice-to-have. Then you measure it on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 is in the product doesn't have this feature at all, and 10 it does it exceedingly well. and it gives you a quantifiable metric. Because let's say you've got 10 things you need something like Silverfin to do, right, for practice management and working papers and all that kind of stuff, and it's got 10 things, you can score it and you can go, actually, this one does that. And I think as vendors, it's not, the impetus isn't always on vendors. It should be on purchasers being savvier purchasers. If not, how do we as vendors help them with finding the right tool solution for them? I'm gonna borrow what you said, Phil, and kind of put my spin on it. Tell me if I'm wrong. Just make it clear as to what you do, right? You mentioned the names. The names don't mean anything. Yeah. What is it? I place it ERP challenger. It's a mid-market ERP. It's not as big as, like, Matt Loons is really good at this. Which I place it. He's like, we're not your SAP, we're not your NetSuite, but we're bigger than Xero. We fill that space in between. Boom. You know exactly what it does. You know what kind of client it's for. Very simple, very straightforward. And then he can give you a demo and show you all the bells and whistles. So yeah, I think it's been clearer about what it does.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I also wonder, right? Like, I wonder if there should be more onus on the App Store owners to give better information. And, like, for example, going back to the analogy of Silverfin, right? Like, again, I'm only using this because I work for Silverfin. But going back to the analogy of Silverfin, if you went in and said, like, what are you looking for? Well, I'm looking for accounts, but I'm looking for working papers. Brilliant. What must it have? It must have cloud. It must have X or
FRS
Y.
105 filing. I know, yeah, stuff like that.
Perfect. That's exactly it. Thank you. It must have FRS 105. Tick. Okay.
Or 102,
must have
something
cloud.
like that.
Yeah. Search. 3 come up. Perfect. Those are 3. Because actually, for me, again, and now as Xero and other businesses start to monetize their app stores for...
Oh yeah, if I was a vendor, what the hell am I paying for? That sounds really bad.
Yeah. But
that'll be my question.
Now, I know that there are some tools that almost do this, but I wonder if it's down to, like, an accounting web. And it's tricky, right? Because accounting web have commercial agreements and sponsorship, but at the same point, there almost needs to be like an impartial, the Which magazine, right? Which magazine for software vendors for this space. And it's really hard to do because accounting web can't really do it. They can do reviews, but they've still got to be concerned about the more commercial side. I'm not saying that you don't ever say something is good when it's not, but what you do is you are, the way you word things can be more discreet, right? And I'm not saying anyone does this, but I'm saying that's the approach you've got to take. They're commercial businesses. They need to develop those relationships, right?
So we need a truly impartial third party to evaluate, assess, codify these apps.
And even like the App Advisory Plus, right? Like, it's a great idea, but it's still to a point commercially driven, because, and as ex-software vendor, are you going to pay for an advert on a website if the review of that website, the review is, it doesn't work? Now, again, maybe, you could say maybe you've got user reviews, but I think user reviews are good on places like the app stores, but they're not necessarily brilliant. I think it's a tricky one. I really do think it is a tricky one to do. I think probably having better search functionality is probably the way to go.
I've also brought Marcus's question back on the screen. It's a really good question, Marcus. Thank you for typing that out, by the way. Thank you for listening and watching. Do you think it's easy for attendees to navigate the app marketplace? If I'm going to be honest, no. There are a lot of apps out there, and I think there's a lot of app overwhelm. Like I said, I've tried to codify it, but if you haven't got time to take a breath, take a beat, it can be overwhelming. How many on the Xero App Store? Like 1,200 or something like that. And that's
it's over
Xero App Store, right? So I can see how that's quite overwhelming. So no, at the moment, it's not particularly easy. Because I can imagine if you Crescent Reefs have me to do it, and Digital Heroes are within our firm. We're a big firm. We can spend time to do this. But if you are a smaller practice or a sole practitioner, you don't necessarily have time to go through the 6 main OCR providers, right? You might not.
No. And by the way, you've got a new one that's just Apron have now just launched that functionality. So now Apron are playing in that space. And and we were having this conversation internally a few weeks back. How do we keep ourselves abreast of what our competitors are doing, or what people coming into our space to be competitors? And you have a million different tools and a million different ideas out there, but sometimes just jumping on a competitor's webinar, watching what they're doing, and sending a flash communication around saying, "Expert software doing Y, is this a threat? Yes or no, or 1 to 10, or whatever it is," right? But that's what we do. What you do is not technology. You do accounting. Not you personally, clear. You do technology. But what I'm saying is accountants do accounting, right? That's what they're not there to sit and monitor all of this. So I think discovery is super hard, and I think equally discovery at events is super hard, because you can go and I don't think I actually walked the entire floor at Accountex this year, which is unusual for me. But I think I got so busy that I ended up just going so there's definitely software and tech I didn't see.
There wasn't as much software and tech there this year. There's a lot of outsourcing though, like a lot.
A lot. Outsourcing seems to be the new forecasting.
There was like a ton of outsource providers.
Yeah, because
I've never seen before.
I think you go for that. Like I remember when forecasting was a big thing. You'd have like a lot of vendors in that space would pop up, and I think outsourcing or offshoring. However you want to. Yeah. I think that's a new growth area. And I think probably, correct me if I'm wrong, right? You're more in the industry than me, but I'm guessing a lot of that's being driven by the capacity challenges and recruitment challenges that UK firms are having. It's like, well, actually, if we can't recruit here, then maybe we do have to look at offshoring some of those roles or outsourcing some of the work.
Yeah, so there is like the recruitment issue. So if you want to get someone to a certain level within accountancy and qualified, it takes 4 to 5 years, right? So that's a long return on investment. A lot of the middle to senior managers in firms in lockdown went, you know what, I can do this myself. So again, they set up their own micro practice guys. So that happened. But also there's cost as well, right? You're going to pay someone in rupees, it's much cheaper. You're going to pay them in rand, it's much cheaper. Now, my understanding is that might balance out in the future as the global economy shifts. So by 2032-ish, they predict that the rupee, the rand are actually going to be a lot stronger and close to the British pound. So actually, the cost of outsourcing outsourcing won't be a benefit. But
is that them going up or us going down?
Bit of column A, column B. It's them going up. Just think about it. If our businesses are outsourcing, that's money in their economy, not our economy.
Yeah, no, 100%. I was just being mildly facetious around the I've just been to Europe, right? Like I've been to Europe, and that exchange rate still makes me cry every time I go over there.
I remember when I was a little kid, and like the pound was disgustingly strong against the dollar, and like you could get
it was like almost $2 to a pound.
Yeah, like I had friends like when I was younger, like their parents were musicians, and it would be cheaper to fly to America, buy a high-end guitar, for example, and then fly back than it would be to get it in the UK, just because of the currency difference, which is insane.
Yeah, and people used to do shopping trips to New York, right? Like you go to New York, you take a suitcase, you fill it up with stuff, and then you bring it back. And that was a genuine thing people were doing because it was so much cheaper. And when I went to New York, it was literally about a month before COVID in 2020. Like that was not a good exchange rate back then, and it's probably worse now after various economic factors that I won't bother going into. But
and crazy news stories. There's always a factor.
Yeah, and everything else, right? So it's like it just makes me weep a little bit every time I go abroad. But I'm privileged that I get to go abroad and go on holidays, right? Not everyone has that. So what I moan about is a very first world problem.
You mentioned, sorry, you went to Europe. Where in Europe did you go for holiday?
Crete.
Okay, nice.
One of the nicest places I've ever been to. Some of the nicest people I've ever met. Honestly, loved it. Absolutely adored it. Day we left, it was 36 degrees. I was quite happy to leave. It was a little bit on the warm side, but
too hot for you. See, I like it when it's hot because I can just don't tell anyone I said this. Hotness is an excuse to be lazy. No one is mad at you if you move slowly when it's 36 degrees. No one is mad. Like, do you mean no one's mad at you for lying down? Like, shit, it's hot. Like, no, and we all agree. We can all feel it. No one's like, oh, no. We all feel 36 degrees, and we'll go, oh, let me just take my time on this.
It's like when businesses say, "Oh, you can go and work anywhere in the world." I'm like, the problem with that is if I leave my desk or my office, it becomes a lot harder because if it's 25 degrees, I want to be in the pool. If it's 36 degrees, I want to be in bed. And if it's -5 degrees, I want to be back home again, right? So it's like, where do you get that balance of the right place to go and work for a couple of weeks or whatever it is?
Yeah, I mean, do you get the opportunity with Silverfin? Are you gonna be in Belgium often, or?
Yeah, no, I've been over there. I did my second day in Silverfin over in our Ghent office, so to meet our VP of product. So it was quite a cool trip, and I'm planning to go back there in July as well to spend some time with the European product team.
How's your Flemish?
About as good as every other language that I know. Really bad. But even my Greek is it was pretty rubbish after being there for a week. So unfortunately, I am that foreigner that goes abroad and just the Brit that goes abroad and just my daughter always takes a mickey at me for using hand signs. So it's like,
I
can I get the bill, please? Can you turn the lights on? Can I get some food?
I'm sure you do the basics though. Please and thank you, right? Please, thank you, and
Of
hello.
course, yeah.
Also, let's be honest. There's a worse level of Brit than that. There's the ones that go somewhere and don't try any of the local cuisine. But they'll go out, they'll be in a Greek restaurant, and they'll be like, "Yeah, hamburger and chips." And you'll be like, "What? What?"
It makes me weep. It really does. Like
some of the food you go when you travel, like some of that food you can only get when you're in that country, and you may never go back to that country depending on how wealthy you are. It's like surely you want to try that. Just I don't know. That's my thing anyway.
I'm with you on that. Like I get why people do holidays in a certain way, but for me, like I never go more than half board at a hotel, and the reason I never go more than half board is because every time I've ever gone all inclusive, I just never leave the hotel. And if that's what you want to do, that I have no judgment on that whatsoever. By the way, just do that. But for me, I want to go there. I want to eat locally. I want to go to local restaurants, local tavernas, local bars, whatever it is, and kind of experience the culture. One of my favorite stories of being away. Every favorite story of mine, anytime I've gone away, is sort of around something local. My favorite New York story is I was we were going back to the airport, and I said to my wife, "No, I want to do the proper New York way. I want to go on the L train." Because I want to say I've been on the L train, right? Yeah. And they were hating this, by the way, because it was busy and they're having to carry cases. But I got chatting to this guy that was next to me, and he was a Barbadian cabbage farmer that moved to New York, imports Barbadian cabbage to local restaurants, and then sends that money back to his family. I would never have found that story out if I got an Uber from the airport and back again, right? Like, it's very unlikely. But I found this guy, this random guy that was next to me on the L train, and we just got chatting. And then I spoke to someone else, and it was like an equally fascinating story. And you go, well, that's the kind of thing you get when you throw yourself into that culture. I mean, we also went to Gambia and almost got killed, but that's a whole different story.
Wait, are you allowed to talk to people on the L train? I assumed it would be like the London Underground. You don't talk to anybody.
Oh, I think New York, right? So like you get the two different types of New Yorkers. You get the chatty New Yorker, and you get the more traditional stereotype New Yorker. And definitely, you get both types. But I try to talk to people on the Underground in London. Weird people. I try to talk to people going into toilets. It's like
See, it was really. So I talk to people on the train, the overground train, and for some reason in my mind that's okay, but for some reason the Underground is off limits. I don't know why. Maybe it's because the journey's longer. Maybe it's because the journey.
Yeah, and also it's quite the Underground's quite compressed, right? So you've got like normally when I travel on the Underground, which I try not to do, I try to walk around London. Again, similar thing to being in Europe. If I'm going to go somewhere, I want to kind of experience it a bit more. And I find the more I walk around London, the more I find these amazing places that I never knew existed. So if I can walk, I will. But the Underground's a weird thing. It's just everyone's so close and there's so many people. That is weird if you start a conversation in that regard.
And depending on some of the lines and where you are, like it can get quite noisy. So you're not talking, you're kind of shouting. And it's like
Oh yeah, trying to have a conversation on the Central Line is just trying to breathe on the Central Line is hard enough. Let alone a conversation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Although
Right.
the new Elizabeth line, absolutely perfect.
It is pretty slick.
Smooth.
Smooth. It's 'cause it's new. We've been talking for almost an hour now, by the way. Thank you for your time. Before we sign off, two things. Please think of a nugget or pearl of wisdom you want to drop. And other thing, do you have any questions for me?
So the first one is, it just goes back to what I discussed earlier, right? Like, just when you're going to an event, make the most out of that event and make sure you're going there to speak to the people you want to speak to, the talks you want to listen to, the networking you want to do, and make it about that. Because it's hard out there for sales teams and people in business. And I want to go, oh, isn't it sad? But it's like, there's an expectation that we go there, we make a certain amount of conversations. Those conversations, we then move across a process, and eventually that returns a revenue. Because otherwise, why do the events? If we don't do the events, then the events can't go on, because that's how those events are funded. So it's kind of like, it's kind of that wonderful circle of life, right, where you keep propagating it. So just go and just go for the right reasons, and take stuff that you need and if you need it, that's great. But like, I can speak from experience, no one wants a pair of vendor socks for Christmas. I do, but I say this because I jokingly gave my wife a pair of I think they're accounting web
and you're still married. She loves you.
It was one of a million presents, right? It was a lot of presents. I did it as a joke. But it was like the first present. I was like, no, open this one. This is a special one. And the face just went. And you could just see it was like, if you're going to do this with every present, this isn't going to work.
I think there's only two other presents that could be worse: a vacuum cleaner and some scales.
For Mother's Day once, and this was at request. I will say this, it was at request. I bought my wife a horse shaving fork for the horse that she has, the shaving fork. And it was the best present. Like, even today, she still says it's the best present she ever had. So look, that would just be my one part of nugget, right? Just make the most out of these events, and by doing that, you'll allow the vendors to make the most out of the conversations that they have and the time that they have. And then, the events will continue, and these amazing events where you learn so much and you see great speakers like yourself there, we can do more of it. So I think that's the win-win. In terms of questions for you, absolutely. What's the best piece of software? What's the best piece of accounting software you have used to date? I don't care what it is. It's just I think it's a good question, just to see what is the essential piece for you, and what's the one piece of technology that you could not live without globally.
Best piece of accounting / fintech software for me has been Dext. I used it as an employee at a startup many years ago when it was Receipt Bank. Made my life a lot easier, made my finance team a lot easier, and now I've seen it on the other side. From a bookkeeping accounting perspective, it's the win-win for everybody. Like, some products are, trying to sell them to a client. They're like, oh, that's just for your benefit. It's like, oh no, this one works for everybody. This is just like, just do it. So Dext specifically, because I like their OCR style, and not just because the software. I like what they're trying to do in terms of the way they process. They don't have certain features, and people go, that doesn't work that way. It's like, well, it doesn't work that way because you don't need it. They're changing the workflow. Not making the software work around how people work in their Luddite ways. They've gone, no, we don't need that because this is how it's done. So, software fintech wise, big Dext fan. Piece of software that I couldn't live without. That's any software. And like,
or technology. Technology in general.
Man, that's a hard one. I'm gonna have to say Wi-Fi. Right, like
that's good.
We use so many other devices that connect to it, and it's become so ubiquitous, and some of our systems are so useless without it. So it's got to be like just the ability to, or 4G or what you want to call it, but some kind of connectivity thing.
No, specifically Wi-Fi, because the worst piece of technology ever. I still speak. I mean, and I've used some pretty shoddy technology in my time, but like the hype around 5G. Is just, honestly,
I've never had it or used it.
It's the worst. Like, I can stand in the middle of London with a full 5G signal on a relatively new iPhone and not be able to go onto the internet. And you're like, how is this possible? This is meant to make things faster. And 5G, but it's more of a localized problem in the UK because weirdly, I can stand. We went to in Crete. We went to this amazingly beautiful gorge in the middle of nowhere, 50 kilometers from civilization, and I could get 5G that worked brilliantly in the middle of a mountain. And you go, how can I do that? But in the middle of London, I can't open up a Google search. So 5G in the UK is terrible.
Is it because we've got lots of old buildings and we can't put masts on them, so the coverage isn't as good as it should be?
No, I think it's because, ironically, if you could use 3G now, it would probably be faster than 5G because everyone has gone to 5G and less people are now using 3G. So therefore, theoretically, 3G could actually end up being faster than 5G because the load on it is less. I think that's actually more true with 4G than 3G. But generally, like if you could flip to 4G in an area everyone's using 5G, you would probably get faster signal than what people are getting just because of load and capacity.
I'm going to say thank you for joining me. So that's a pretty good nugget to go out on. Please smile for a few seconds because as it leaves, like there's a little freeze thing. So smile, hit end button. Thank you, Marcus, for comments. Thank you for other people who've been watching, and thank you for people who might comment later. Much appreciated. Peace out.